We begin today's hearing with, as we normally do, with opening statements, and then we'll get right to our witness. And we appreciate Ms. Khan being with us, Chair Khan being with us today. At a speech in Berlin in 2022, Chair Khan told an audience that the challenges facing antitrust today were, quote, the result of a choice made 40 years ago to follow the misguided philosophy of people like Robert Bork. In other words, according to Chair Khan, the prevailing view over the last 40 years, a bipartisan view, shared over more than 20 Congresses, 6 presidential administrations, and adopted and developed by all 50 states in their enforcement, is now somehow wrong. Consider that over those 40 years, the U.S. economy grew from about a $3 trillion annual economy to $25 trillion, and was the single greatest period of wealth creation in human history. But everyone who oversaw economic policy for those 4 decades, according to the chair, was wrong. She knows better. She's trying to usher in a radical departure from the norms that made the American economy great to a system where her and her cronies have unchecked power over business practices in our country, untethered from any reasonable reading of precedent or statutory law. So we should ask now, over the 2 years into her tenure, how has her approach to antitrust been playing out as she heads one of those critical agencies in our government? The short answer is that it's been a disaster. She's pushed investigations to burden parties with vague and costly demands without any substantive follow-through or, frankly, logic for the requests themselves. She's centralized the decision-making at the commission within her office, eliminated any pretext of due process or transparency in that decision-making. Her approach is best characterized as one of intimidation followed by inaction. The best example of this, which was only brought to light because of our work on the Weaponization Select Committee, was her targeted harassment of Twitter. After Mr. Musk bought the company and following pressure from Democrat senators, left-wing activist groups, the FTC issued over 350 requests for information from Twitter. These requests included asking for every communication about Mr. Musk inside the company, and most troubling, for information about Twitter's work with journalists, working to shed light on the government-driven censorship practices that existed at, and I think in some cases still exist, at big tech. In fact, we got a great court decision last week who talked about this, how pervasive this effort was, and a preliminary injunction from that federal court in the Western District of Louisiana. Just this morning, though, in a filing in federal court, we have learned that the situation is actually even worse than we could have imagined. This wasn't harassment, it was a shakedown. The FTC, as is common practice pursuant to the consent order, required Twitter to hire an independent assessor whose legal obligation is to be truly independent and objective, not for one party or another. Well, it turns out objectivity was not what the Federal Trade Commission was interested in here. Here's what the filing said about Ernst & Young, the independent assessor hired in this matter. Quote, the FTC was so adamant with Ernst & Young conveying that this is absolutely what you will do, and this is going to occur, and you'll produce a report at the end of the day that would be negative about Twitter, that senior Ernst & Young leaders feared that if Ernst & Young resigned as the independent assessor, the FTC would take exception to their withdrawal and create other challenges for Ernst & Young over time. This is not conjecture from Twitter. This is from sworn testimony of the independent assessor in the deposition itself, taken just last month. This is outrageous. This is unacceptable. And it's the kind of behavior that occurs in banana republics, not in the United States of America. And so it's no wonder Chair Khan has no interest in providing information to the people's representatives in the Congress, to the people on this committee when we ask for it. To date, the FTC has not fully complied with a single request for documents from this committee. And because of her mismanagement, not even her own staff is impressed with Chairman Khan's leadership. In 2020, the last year under the Trump administration, 87% of FTC employees agreed that senior leaders maintain high standards. Under Chair Khan, that figure fell to 53% in 2021, has declined even further to 49% in 2022. In 2020, 83% of surveyed FTC employees agreed that they have a high level of respect for the FTC senior leaders. Again, under the chairman, that figure plummeted to 49%. And these numbers were before it was revealed recently that the chair was advised by FTC's Ethics Council to recuse herself from a major case She did not recuse herself and then appears to have misled Congress about taking that advice. We have a lot of questions today to get through. We look forward to the response from the chairman of the FTC. And with that, I would yield to the gentleman